In the far west of Nepal, near the Indian border, the Terai region is home to 300 square kilometers of paradise. The Suklaphanta Wildlife Reserve, with its multitude of landscapes, is exceptional. One moment it feels like the African savanna, the next like a deep European forest. A UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1984, this emblematic national park was the first one to be founded in Nepal. Thanks to the work of a passionate few, a balance between man and nature is being created. For the first time, cameras will capture the kingdom of Suklaphanta's incredible biodiversity. Decimated by years of hunting and poaching for its horn, which is almost twice as valuable as gold, the Indian rhinoceros had completely disappeared from Suklaphanta. Thanks to the efforts of conservation and nature protection organizations, the rhino was reintroduced early in the 21st century. Since then, thanks to the army and a campaign to raise awareness among the local population, not one rhino has been killed. Today, around 10 of them live here, but they're still too few to ensure the survival of the species. That's why new reintroductions are planned soon for nearby parks. In the sweltering heat, a red-throated agame lizard is on the lookout. It's time for the Hanuman monkeys to take a nap. And the vultures await their meal. But for the biggest cat of them all, the Bengal tiger, it is just the start of a lazy afternoon. After a night's solitary hunting, the big cat is recharging its batteries. The ambient temperature of 45 degrees has got the better of this male tiger. He will spend 5 hours lying in the riverbed. This fascinating creature can grow to up to 3 meters long and weigh between 100 and 260 kilograms. The global tiger population has fallen from 100,000 worldwide a century ago to just 4,000 today. The Nepalese NGO NTNC monitors nature conservation and protection of endangered species. One of its tasks at Suklaphanta is to take an annual census of the number of tigers living there. The animals are counted by motion-detecting cameras deployed along the trails that tigers like to use. 52 cameras are used at 132 observation points. The operation takes several weeks and requires a large team in the field. Around 15 years ago, 23 tigers were identified in this way. Now there are just 15 left. Poaching is still very difficult to control, even though Nepal and India are trying to work together to fight against the traffickers on this natural expanse which stretches along both sides of the border. For over 40 years in Suklaphanta, the army has worked alongside NTNC's researchers and the park's specialists. Its 1,500 men patrol the park day and night, and their presence helps to drastically reduce illegal hunting and pillaging of the forest's resources. It is daybreak, and a team gathers around a sacred tree to celebrate a puja, a Hindu ritual which represents spiritual communion between man, nature, and the gods. The ritual is performed to ensure that the new mission goes without a hitch. The objective over the next few days is to take a census of the crocodile population. Mugger crocodiles can reach 4 to 5 meters in length. They are carrion eaters who help to clear the watercourses, lakes and shores of dead fish and other animals. The team makes its way along the banks looking for traces of the creature, like drag marks on the ground or droppings, which are noted and recorded with GPS coordinates. As soon as a crocodile is spotted, its photograph is taken. The data collected will allow the species' presence in the reserve to be charted. The lakeside is also frequented by pythons and tigers, so it is vital to be vigilant at all times. After 2 weeks of intense hard work in the field, it was possible to make a first-ever estimate of Suklaphanta's crocodile population. 150 of them live within the reserve. From now on, it will be possible to follow the progress of a species about which little is known. In the west of the reserve, Ranital Lake hosts an incredible array of aquatic flora and bird species. It is also a wonderful haven for dragonflies. From the air, the lake's vivid colors resemble those of an old master's painting. remarkable and as yet unspoiled biodiversity thrives in this red and blue world. A short journey reveals an entirely different world. Here too, the army keeps watch. The savanna is home to one of the world's largest populations of swamp deer. Over 2,300 of them live here throughout the year. The herd is led by an experienced female and is made up of does and fawns of different ages. Every morning, an expert tracks one of the groups using a system of radio tags worn by some of the herd. This observation allows a greater insight into the species' behavior throughout the seasons. Leaving the deer, we head for the trees. Over 350 species of bird live in Suklaphanta. One of them, the red-headed bee-eater, is a multicolored jewel of the skies. In early March, some trees which still have no leaves cover themselves in red flowers, giving them an appearance of a river of rubies. These are the favorite food of Asiatic sunbirds, small birds with long, thin, and slightly curved beaks, perfect for feeding on the flowers. The parakeet, too, make the most of the opportunity. These vultures are survivors. For many years, they were getting poisoned by an anti-inflammatory found in cattle carcasses. A campaign to raise awareness is underway, and the product has been banned from sale in Nepal and India. Hermanta has dedicated his life to the study of the reserve's fauna, especially its deer. He explains that a tiger attack has just taken place, as the traces are still fresh. A small Indian hog deer must have been drinking when the tiger attacked. Tigers rarely eat their prey at the site of the attack, preferring to drag it away to a safe place and hide it in the bushes. Hermanta takes a sample. The piece of flesh will be sent to a laboratory in Kathmandu to identify the animal's genetic heritage and ascertain whether it was in good health. This wealth of information from the field helps to guide the park's managers in terms of decisions over conservation. Under the punishing sun, the savanna is ready to go up in flames from the slightest spark. Fire is both nature's friend and its foe. Mostly it is the result of natural causes, but it can also be started and controlled by the park's technicians. Occasionally, it is the result of criminal activity. It destroys everything in its path. A view from the sky reveals that all that is left is the filigree of animal trails. Nature is full of surprises. Sometimes the flames stop of their own volition at the edge of a forest. This apparent death of the landscape is in fact a new dawn. The vegetation is stimulated, and new shoots appear very quickly in the following days. Just a few meters from the edge of the reserve, there are houses and crops. Man's hunger to conquer natural spaces is completely stopped here, just in time. Surrounded by villages and rice paddies, the forest keeps its secrets. Nature, on the other hand, has no frontiers. In the middle of a paddy field, we encounter one of the world's biggest flying birds, the Saros crane. This wader, which lives in humid environments, has a loud and piercing call which can be heard for miles around. Part of the crane's mating ritual is a dance made up of little jumps. Their vast 3-meter wingspan gives grace to their flight. A global drive to protect nature is impossible without support from local communities. In Rauteli Bichawa village, the women come together to meet Samir and Pramod, two Aweli wildlife and people activists. The NGO's aim here is to preserve the tiger's habitat by encouraging communities to reduce their use of natural resources, especially in the forest. These women have been trained in sustainable micro-projects and have learned artisan techniques which allow them to create projects which are profitable and respectful of nature.
Fruits or flower or anything.
This achievement is quite revolutionary in a country where women are often undervalued. Not far away, another example of a complementary activity. This family has received help in setting up a pig farm. It's only possible to talk conservation with the local population when their bellies are full. The quality of life has also been improved by genetically evolving dairy cattle in order to improve milk yields and therefore profits. Artificial insemination programs are therefore regularly offered to livestock owners. To ensure the success of these big changes, action has to be taken at every level of society, especially among the young. It's now 5 p.m. and something is happening around the entrance to the park. It's World Environment Day, and a theatrical group created by Aweli and NTNC has decided to put on a show of street entertainment. Witty and entertaining, the piece has an important message. The forest must be protected so the tiger may return. To kill one or pillage their habitat is punishable by law. This is a touching moment of awareness raising, which proves laughter can have educational benefits. A young blue bull, a small native antelope, has just been brought in from a neighboring village. The team will bring it into the camp and feed it until it's old enough to return to the wild. A new day dawns over Suklaphanta's forests. Through the morning mist, a very shy adult blue bull appears, as if by magic. The male has a grey-blue coat, while the female's is red. This large bovine animal with its small head could pass for a horse. It's a timid animal, with highly developed senses to help it avoid predators like the tiger. The blue bull needs lush undergrowth for camouflage and safety. Unfortunately, in some areas, this is impossible. What may look spectacular to us is in fact an invasive plant which has made its home in a forest which has borne the ravages of man and his livestock. This carpet of blue flowers is an indication that the sun's rays reach the ground far too easily. But it takes more than this to slow life down, and the animals roam these areas anyway. The spotted deer is at home in dense or clear forests, as well as in barren or tree-rich savanna. It's a ruminant which lives mostly on leaves, grasses, fruit, and reeds. Its main predators are tigers, pythons, and crocodiles. And now here's a little story about primates. The monkey Hanuman joined the god Rana on a trip to Sri Lanka to find Rana's wife Sita, who had been kidnapped by the demon Ravana, king of Sri Lanka. Hanuman used this opportunity to steal a mango plant and take it back to India, where it did not grow. He was punished for his transgression by being sent to the stake. As he tried to escape the flames, his face and paws turned black. Hanuman monkeys are said to be his descendants. A wild beehive appears in the top of a tree. Apis dorsata is a migratory species of giant honeybee living in the Indian subcontinent. They produce honey, but have never been domesticated as they do not use closed cavities when nesting. Each colony consists of a single suspended honeycomb covered with a dense mass of bees in several layers. On a nearby branch, this old nest must have been destroyed by a predator or abandoned by a migrating colony. Here and there, worker bees are hard at work, as they have no intention of leaving even a single drop of precious honey for the ants. The undergrowth has put on its autumn apparel. At the foot of the trees, life peacefully carries on. A family of boar takes a mud bath, while on a branch above, a giant firebug is looking for a meal. Driven by their collective intelligence, the ants go in search of new territories. Nearby, this 3-meter-tall mound of earth is the work of termites. Hidden behind the trees, near some sacred stones, a Brahmin leaves offerings for the gods. In a nearby pond, hidden from the fish, thousands of frenetic tadpoles are swimming for the first time. This little shoal of fish is lying in wait for any insects that might stray onto the water's surface. Watching from a branch, a grey-headed fish eagle dreams of its next meal. This fishing eagle lives on half-dead or vulnerable fish. Unfortunately, these are a little too full of life. It's time for the butterflies to quench their thirst. Higher in the trees, away from prying eyes, things are quite different. A pair of parakeets smooch and mate tenderly. When the deed is done, the gentleman offers his lady a few freshly regurgitated seeds. The north of the reserve acts as a genuine corridor to the mountains for a number of species. In recent years, the borders of Suklaphanta Reserve have been extended and populations relocated to make room for a remarkable animal which had completely disappeared from the region: the blackbuck, or Indian antelope. During the 1900s, there were over 4 million head of blackbuck, but they nearly became extinct because of intensive hunting and excessive cultivation on its territory. In order to save the species, a reintroduction program was launched. People living near the area are regularly educated in the importance of these antelopes, not just because of biodiversity, but also ecotourism. One of the main things at stake is the quality of the meadows, and so these must be protected at all costs. But this is easier said than done, and a major problem persists. In fact, it's estimated that there are 20,000 cows roaming unattended in and around the reserve. They graze on everything they come across and are a real threat to the ecosystem. In order to check this problem, a campaign of castration is soon to be launched. In the meantime, soldiers try in vain to drive the cows out of the park. Cows are sacred in Nepal, so killing them is out of the question. The cow represents Hindu culture's Earth Mother and is a symbol of life. The Ranital people who live on the edge of the forest have recently been educated about the problem of deforestation caused by cows. Mindsets gradually evolve, and many families no longer let their livestock graze in the forest, growing their own animal feed instead. But while some people understand what is at stake, there are still many who persist in playing cat and mouse with the army. The cows can also be of benefit to the families, particularly those who are equipped with biogas. This ingenious system provides an unlimited source of free gas. The dung is collected and stocked in a special tank connected to the toilets. In just a few hours, the effects of heat and decomposition cause a natural fermentation to take place. All that remains is to turn the tap and light the gas to start cooking. Biogas has radically changed women's lives, as they no longer need to go and gather wood in Suklaphanta's forests at the end of the day. This used to be difficult and dangerous work. There was a permanent dread of being caught red-handed by the soldiers, not to mention the fact that the women were frequently injured by snakes and scorpions. Around the old villages, the ecosystem bears the scars of illegal wood and fodder cutting. To help the reserve's biodiversity gain a foothold, a plant nursery has been set up. Here, trees are grown for reforestation, as well as plants destined to provide feed for livestock. The forest's edge is just a few meters from the first houses, and who would not want to take advantage of such bountiful resources? Temptation is never far away, and it is no small task to convert a population which until recently lived in dire poverty. It's impossible to ignore Nepal's history, Between 1996 and 2006, the country was in the grip of a civil war. The Suklaphanta reserve was left to its own devices. Many animals were killed and whole areas of the forest destroyed during those dark days. The sun is still hiding behind the Himalayan mountains. In the distance, we might see the silhouettes of a brave handful of people setting off to work the land. Several months have passed. It's now June and the savanna is much changed. As if by magic, it has regenerated and straw yellow has given way to lush greenery. The swamp deer are still here. As are their protectors. At the camp, this is the beginning of a day not quite like the rest. A team of 40 people is getting ready to set out. Five elephants join the vehicles off the trail for a very special mission. The government and its scientists have decided to relocate 10 of the deer, 5 males and 5 females, to Bardia National Park, with the objective of increasing the genetic diversity of its population. A net 300 meters long is deployed across an area that the animals usually pass through in the evening. The team's maneuver has been a long time in the planning. The elephants, quiet and discreet, drop the men off far away to drive the herd. Meanwhile, hiding among the trees at strategic points, the rest of the team lies in wait. The operation is underway. Sadly, for the third day running, the deer proved to be quicker and smarter than the men. After hours of hard work in the crushing heat, the team is downcast and silent. They attempt to work out where it went wrong and review their strategy. The decision is made to move the net to a more favorable location. As night falls, the men hit the road again. It is 4 o'clock in the morning and everyone is on a war footing. The sun is up and a new attempt to capture the deer is underway. And then everything happens very quickly. A female has been captured. The vet quickly injects a sedative. A blood sample is taken along with physiological data. Every precaution is taken to ensure the animal's well-being, such as putting a blindfold over its eyes and blocking its ears. The doe weighs around 180 kilograms, and it takes 10 people to carry her to the truck. The tension is palpable until the animal is finally safe.
Big operation, big operation. We succeeded to capture one again.
He is the doctor of this wildlife reserve.
After 10 days of intense work, 3 females and 2 males will be transported to Bardia National Park, 180 kilometers from Suklaphanta. The operation will start again in a few months after the rainy season. Each animal is equipped with a radio collar, allowing researchers and veterinarians to monitor their progress and integration into their new territory. On the last day of the mission, a puja is celebrated to thank the gods for the fact that no animal was injured or killed. The men are also safe and sound, despite the risks posed by the extreme heat and the presence of dangerous animals. It was high time that the mission ended. The wind gets up and shakes the tall grass where the dragonflies are attempting to settle. Distant clouds are forming, and the air is becoming electrically charged. Thousands of swallows whirl around in the sky, searching for food. A growl of thunder echoes across the plains of Suklaphanta. After months of intense heat, the monsoon is on its way. And the rain soon arrives. The forest gives off 1,001 odors. A long-forgotten feeling of freshness reappears. This is a genuine rebirth of nature. The rainy season will last for 3 months. In the dead of night, the team awakes to a peculiar surprise. 2 Asian black bears have been rescued from a village near the mountains. They're in an extreme state of stress and exhaustion. The only solution to save them is to take them urgently to the zoo in Kathmandu. The NTNC team immediately set about building a crate adapted to the size of the 2 bear cubs. If the 2 cubs had been left alone without their mother's protection, they would certainly have died. Their life at the zoo will not be easy, but their presence will help to educate the population about protecting endangered species. They have a long 17-hour journey ahead of them. The vet is concerned about their state of exhaustion, but there's no other choice. They must leave immediately. Luckily for them, the skies have cleared. The macaques perched in the treetops start to awaken and head off to find their first meal of the day. Skillfully, they select young grass shoots, their favorite delicacy. The behavior of these macaques is markedly different from that of their urban cousins. They're more timid and tolerate the presence of humans only at a distance. The peacock, whose colors are extremely bright in the wild, can fly into the trees at the slightest alarm or run away through the long grass. Suklaphanta Reserve's biodiversity is unique. Nepal is one of the poorest countries in the world, but despite the shortage of means, the Nepalese managed to achieve a great deal. Thanks to the support of foundations and NGOs like Aweli and NTNC, important work can be done in the field. Conservation and protection of endangered species can only happen with the support of the local population. This is the main lesson to be learned from the way the reserve is operated. Nowadays, the children in the villages, unlike their parents, are respectful of nature. Mindsets are changing, slowly but surely. How could anyone fail to be moved by the marvels of this world, like, for example, locking eyes with this fishing cat? Or following a family of wandering otters? Both are living proof that these two extremely rare species are thriving here. In the kingdom of Suklaphanta, as elsewhere, a coexistence between man and nature is not only possible, but essential to ensure the future of our planet.